Welcome to Value Raters Class Act, a slightly shorter programme than normal. We were hoping to get Charlie Austin on the phone, but as soon as we did, Harry Redknapp left. So we was in a situation whereby we could not get him on tonight for media concerns, and obviously nothing to do with football we was going to ask him about, but can't take any interviews today. So unfortunately no Charlie Austin, but no doubt we will speak to Charlie Austin at some point in the future. Right, okay, tonight we have got a number of things to digest and look back on, and Matt has come up with the Betfred Keep It Fun Contenders Hurdle. 4 runners we're going to look back on. We've got the Betfair Hurdle to look forward to later on. But first of all, we've got a competition running, Matt.
We have indeed, yeah, to win a pair of tickets to this Betfair, this great race on Saturday at Newbury. Thanks to Newbury for doing that for us. And it's quite easy to enter this. We're going to put a caption now, which is a photo. You can see here now, to give you a clue, now this was the winner of this very race, the Betfair Hurdle, last week. Now all you'll need to do is you'll need to tweet into @BaitRacing or Value Rater with your answer. Simple as that. Or if you haven't got any of, I appreciate some people haven't got to be able to tweet. Just email me, value.rater@outlook.com, and you can do that up until midnight, and then tomorrow we will draw and we'll see who's won the great prize. Yeah, absolutely. So, we'd like to thank Newbury for doing that as well. And just very quickly, they're putting a little bit of a warm heat over the top. Yeah, we had snow. They put the frost covers down there. I spoke to Richard Osgood. I spoke to him this morning. He kindly rang me back this afternoon. They had a bit of a dilemma. Obviously, they had a lot of snow on the track, but he rang me back this afternoon, and the ground is soft. It is soft there. I put him under quite heavy question into what he expects for the rest of the week, and I got the impression they're expecting nothing but soft time those covers come off on Saturday. So for anyone looking at form, do see it very much as you need horses like some cut in the ground. And also, what we had a similar case at Sandown last weekend is that when they've got those covers on, it almost acts like condensation. So you can imagine it can sometimes sweat underneath of there, and it become even like, harder work for the horses. So like Sandown, they might have been calling it, soft, good to soft in places, but I'm sure everyone would agree who was watching the race of the weekend, it was hard work. It was hard work, but they were getting through it. Yeah. They weren't like, some of the heavy grounds side of things. We've not really had, have we? No, we haven't. We've had a good winter. Yeah. As I said, we were just saying before we come on air, it hasn't been particularly cold. We've got this little bit of a cold snap now, but we're in February, so we just, you'd imagine, fingers crossed, that we'd only quickly be passing before we... And it's all a matter of grin and bear it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, on Saturday, there was a fascinating 4-runner contest. We'll get the tables up in a second. It was won by Garde La Victoire. It was the Keep It Fun Contenders Hurdle. There you go. And you wanted to analyse the form and maybe point to Bristol de Mai. Well, I think the automatic reaction was done poorly, but you don't think so? No, absolutely. I was really interested. Can I just state, sorry, that's 163. That should be on the second one. Yeah, Jolly Allen 163, not 163. That would be a good mark to run to, wouldn't it? 163. If you get there. So apologies for that. Yeah, Jolly Allen, the second also 163. Now, the reason I wanted to look at this race, I was interested because obviously we spoke about last week, or perhaps the week before it was, about the juveniles, Bristol de Mai, is that I've very much seen it as a horse at the top of the division when it comes to collateral form lines. And I always had the horse at about 158 starting off my handicap. Now, Garde La Victoire I've always seen as a 165 horse. He's been very consistent, hasn't he, all season. Now, we've seen him there in the Greatwood, in the Ascot Hurdle. Now he's come here. I believe I know what this horse is. I've always seen him as better than his official mark of 154. So, 165, I had started the handicap just to see what I'd have Bristol de Mai run into. Now, by putting that 165 of my racing in there, we get Bristol de Mai coming out at 157. Uncanny, just a pound less of what I've given him. So I see that to be right. Now, if you look at the weights there, we've got 11.4 Garde La Victoire, the second horse, Jolly Allen, 11.2. Now, Bristol de Mai is a juvenile. Now, that's a 4-year-old running against older horses. So for that, there's a concession. They get a bit of weight, which in this case, he's in receipt of what... He's in receipt of £11 from the actual favourite. Now, that's good. Now, the reason a lot of people will make reference and say, well, it's, he's been over-phased a little bit in this race. I kind of accept that. But this race was truly running, it was run at a fair gallop under the conditions. Gardner Victor went off to make it, obviously, for a horse who stays 2.5 miles. Jolly Allen kind of tracked him with McCoy. Jolly Allen, interesting horse here. I got rated to 163. Again, please forgive that rating, 1636. It's not that, 163. Now, this horse has got an entry for the Supreme Novice Hurdle. A Supreme Novice Hurdle, in most years, you would need to be performing to around the 150 to 155 mark. So already, I'm suggesting this horse has ran to a mark that. Now, the Achilles heel for Jolly Allen may well be his jumping. He's only been running in small fields recently. I mean, against Gardner Victor, he actually made a mistake 2 out. I'm a little bit more forgiving of that mistake, simply because Gardner Victor actually swerved a little bit out to the left, and I think he was a little bit unsighted. This Jolly Allen, he's got a huge engine. I think his future might lie over a little bit further than this 2.5.
Harry Fry has a few like Jolly Allen, in as much that they don't jump great, but they win. They win hurdle races, and I think maybe the long-term objective, as you quite rightly said, is 2.5 miles, possibly 3 mile chaser. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, he's a big horse, isn't he? You would imagine looking at him, you wouldn't mind him soft ground. I'm not so sure about that. I think he travelled through the race at Kempton on better ground, good stuff. I think he travelled a lot better than he did, and that might be important to the horse. But I think when he gets that trip, 2.5 miles, I mean, in a race like a Supreme, I mean, the fractions they go quick. So if you can't jump, really well, and he spends... he's not a natural, what I would say, Supreme Novice Hurdler. What I'm saying, the reason I want to highlight him is because I think he's run to a high mark, and going forward, it might not be this season, but next year, as you said, perhaps jumping of a fence. But take nothing away, this Bristol de Mer in third, and the juvenile, he was overreaction out to 20 to 1 after this effort. I think he's run his race. I mean, bearing back lost.
Well, I mean, we came off air afterwards, and Mick Fitzgerald said, well, there's no way that can win. At Cheltenham.
As soon as I heard him say that, I thought, well, I can't have this. And I had a quick look, and I can't keep on being wrong with my rating of saying Gardner Victor's 165. I sat on this very show and said, well, I think Bristol.
So what do you have Peace and Co at then?
Peace and Co 158.
So a pound difference between the two, even after that.
After that, I think Bristol de May.
Are you saying then that the two horses that Bristol de May come up against are just better class horses based on age, based on experience, and it was thrown in the deep end a little bit?
Maybe.
And Peace and Co in that race would have finished exactly the same. That's what you're saying.
Maybe, but I do think this also is overplayed. So I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh well, this isn't the right kind of race," or for a horse like that. Let's not forget, these horses get that allowance. They're not running off level weight. They try and make it fair, and sometimes I think the allowances are too much. He's received a lot of weight here. I simply think, I think he's run his race. I know he's been beaten.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, he come up against Gardner Victor, fifth in the Ladbroke Hurdle, beat Vanator. I mean, this is strong form.
Absolutely.
And you've got an up-and-coming horse, and gets weight. But it takes some doing to beat a horse that has been there, done that. We'll talk about the Betfair Hurdle a bit later on. But, the experience counts for a lot.
It does.
And I think 11 to 8 favourite.
Yeah, he was. I mean, that's probably what they got wrong in the race. The way they bet, they got it the wrong way around, and I think it's been proven in that. But take nothing away. Don't give up on that Bristol de Mer, because he travelled through it was only until the real business end he couldn't quite go with him. But I thought he travelled through the race. I thought he jumped really well. I thought he showed a lot of the signs that he did at Chepstow when winning a Grade 1, let's not forget, as a juvenile. And he's come across a horse in Gardner Victor, who I think is a 165 horse, getting beat 8.5 lengths as a 4-year-old. I don't think that's any disgrace. I think what it does do, though, is it highlights perhaps that the juveniles we've got at the moment, they do need to step up enormously next year to trouble the likes of Gardner Victor. When we talk of, not all our juveniles can go on the next year and be potential.
Well, the 4-year-olds in the Triumph last year weren't particularly very good, were they? Where Tiger Roll went on to win one more race, as we digressed, and there was two horses, I think, in that race have won, but they've won on the flat. There's been no winners that have come out of that race, in all honesty. And this year, you're looking at Peace and Co, you're looking at Hargame, Bristol de May, and straight away that Bristol de May goes out to 20 to 1.
It's an overreaction.
It's booking reaction. So you think on the day...
I think the horses ran a pound, on my figures, ran a pound beneath what he ran on at heavy ground.
So just put this into some kind of perspective, because people who don't know racing will look at that and think, oh, it's finished beat, third, miles away, not going to back it next time. As a sort of value rater, you've got to look at the statistics and look at what the horse is up against.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and I'm not taking the view here strictly that the horse is, oh, well, we just got to forgive the horse because he's run against his shoulders. What I'm saying is, as a juvenile, I think he's run his race. What he's done is he's come up against two horses. It's yet to be proven with Jolly Allen how good he is. I'm telling you now that that horse is very high class, you know, very high class. If he can just work on his jumping technique, you know, as I said, I don't think he'd be winning Supreme, but I think he could be very, very competitive in a race, and particularly next year. And Gardner Victor,
and he'll come back up the hill, won't he?
Absolutely. I think, in summary, the reason why I pointed out is Bristol and May, as a reaction to go straight out to 20-1, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I think he's run his race. I think he's run with credit. Many will look at the fact he's 11-8 favourite, beating 8.5 lengths, and put the form down. But just because the bookies got or we got the market wrong doesn't mean horses haven't run their race. And I see it as
on the line with the Halling King horse, you have to remind me the name of that horse.
Karazak?
Yeah. There's nothing between Peace and Co and
no, absolutely. I mean, the top of the juveniles, I've got Bristol Premier going into this race, Peace and Co 158, and then you go down to like 155, and then there's a little bit of a gap to Hargam, who'd ran a few weeks ago.
I like Hargam.
Yeah, I mean, Hargam did nothing wrong. I mean, what he proved on Sunday was that he can travel. He can travel through the race, and you know, I don't like to see horses win too much. What we learnt, I don't know. I mean, if you're taking visual impression, I mean, how Peace and Co beat that horse of Donald McKean round Doncaster compared to that, it looked more, you know, you can't gauge. I mean, he was never out of second gear. What we learn, I don't know.
It's interesting that Nicky Henderson has two major contenders for that race.
Yeah.
And has got a decision to make, because I would presume they won't run against each other.
Well, you presume not. I mean, I would never like to second-guess trainers, but what I would say about Hargam is I think ground's quite important to him. You know, I think he could well improve for good ground of what he, you know, which he had on Sunday at Musselburgh.
In relation to the winner, Gardner Victor, how good a horse is that?
Yeah, 165. I mean, it's interesting. They've decided they're not going to go the champion hurdle route now. They've decided that they're going to stay in handicaps. Now, off a mark of 154, he's going to be very vulnerable. Now, I know I'm saying that I'm got him 165, but even having £11 in hand in these handicaps, what we're going to be speaking about the Betfair hurdle in a minute, and we'll explain why you need a lot more hand in that. The Hobbs have said that they don't think he's good enough at 165, and I have to agree with that, because off of 165 to be competitive in a race like the champion hurdle this year, I believe you're going to you're going to have to be at least 175. So he's going to fall £10 short. So I'd imagine he'd be very competitive in handicaps, but he will be falling short of winning just because I think his mark's now high.
And we talked about Jolly Allen as well. Built like a chaser.
Both of them are actually. Gardner Victor, I think he will jump events, and Golly Allen should indeed be very high class.
Okay, in terms of Saturday racing in general, how do you think it went? I mean, Champagne West was an unfortunate faller, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was unfortunate. I didn't fancy him before the race. I mean, the winner of the
Irish Saint.
Yeah,
we had a toss-up between the two, but it was run by the Mullins horse in there.
Yeah, it was. I didn't quite say she must be very good.
Yeah.
She must be very, very good. I know she was getting the allowances, but no, Champagne West. I fancied Irish Saint to beat that horse, but it was, you know, there's tacky old conditions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There and
yeah. And a bit of pastry at the beginning, the part of the chocolat.
Had you pronounce it? I haven't had time actually to really look at that race at the moment, but an overview of the weekend. I mean, especially when we looked at a Fossil.
It wasn't a great day's racing, was it?
It was good racing, but we're spoiled, aren't we? When we have like Cheltenham's Trial Day, it seems to be every other week we have a decent.
And the winner of the Welsh hurdle.
Yeah, very impressive. Hurdle. Very impressive off the top weight as well. Yeah. So again, an atrocious.
Another Stafford route, do you think?
I'm not sure we'd go that far. Again, it's another race that I have to digest and look at. But there was nice gaps. But I'll be very interested in having a look back to see CISO's some of its form previous in handicaps, because it might be well worth having a look at.
Okay. Right, okay, well that's a look back at Saturday, and very much one particular race that we did feature there. The big race this weekend is the Betfair Hurdle. Obviously, horses like Calypto and Sign of Victory, Hawkeye, whatever it might be, we're going to have a look at all of those And also the big chase race as well coming up. We won't even have time to talk about that, but the return of Sire de Grugy. We're going to take a quick advert and we'll be back after this.